Hello, I'm State Representative Keith Gillespie of the 47th District in York County. Many residents of our district have approached me about the state budget, asking where the process stands and where we go from here. On today's program, I'll pose those same questions to my guest, Majority Appropriations Chairman, Representative Bill Adolph. Representative Adolph, welcome.
Nice to be here.
Great to have you here. Maybe you can explain to our viewers what your role as Chairman of the House Appropriations Committee entails.
Well, it's a big committee. It's the largest committee in the state capitol. There's 37 members, and there's 22 Republicans and 15 Democrats at this time. And my position as chairman, it's an elected position. You get elected by your peers. And what I've tried to do as chairman, number one, is make sure that the various districts in the Commonwealth are represented. I like a balanced committee, whether it be from the southeast, northeast, central Pennsylvania, southwest, northwest. Make sure that every section of the Commonwealth is represented by a legislator, because no sense putting together a budget, okay, when that can't pass the House. And I think that's been part of our success over the years in getting budgets done, because without representation from those areas, you're really missing something. So, and we are charged with putting together the state budget, roughly $30 billion. And once we get the committee together, we hold hearings after the governor does his budget address. And we hold hearings, just like school board directors do, just like township managers or township supervisors do, just like CEOs and CFOs do in private industry. And they bring in these cabinet members. We bring in university presidents. We bring in the state police commissioner, and we go through their budgets. And they give us a proposal, and we say how many employees, how many vacancies do you have, what's the health insurance cost, what's the pension cost, and what are these new policies, new computers, I mean, so forth and so on. Keith, it's quite a, and I love it. I mean, I've always enjoyed it, and we've had outstanding committees, and we put together the budgets.
Well, your background is you have a CPA?
Yeah, I'm a partner in a small accounting firm. It's a mom and pop company, 6 people, okay? Me and a partner and 4 employees. And right now, I still do individual tax returns on the weekends, and looking forward to doing more of those next year. But I try to bring the small business man's perspective to this. And, when I'm doing tax returns on the weekends, I see what people are faced with. I see what they're making. I see what their expenses are, their mortgage interest, their property taxes, their medical bills, so forth and so on, their college bills, because tuitions now are come into play with the tax return. So it's really been a benefit to me to stay in touch with the people back home and see what they're doing on an everyday basis.
Well, sitting on the sidelines, I don't sit on the Appropriations Committee, but you certainly have been a benefit to the caucus and as also to the Commonwealth. Bill, you're going to be woefully missed. I know you're looking forward to a long deserved retirement coming up here.
It's been a real honor and a privilege to serve the folks of the 165th District, but more importantly, to work with my colleagues in the House and work with the various administrations over my career. And this has been a difficult year. It's not what I envisioned, but it's important.
Yeah, and I applaud you for the great work that you've done in the committee, and particularly, as you said a few minutes ago, the diversity that you have within the committee and pulling people from various parts of the states. I mean, I sit there on the floor all the time, and and look at some of our colleagues that may be 100 miles away, and sometimes it's a 180-degree philosophical difference.
No
but that's what
question about it.
makes the world go round and what makes the Commonwealth function. And,
Yes.
and I applaud you for recognizing that. You're extremely nonpartisan. You want to do what's right for the Commonwealth, and you form the committee based on that. So as we get into maybe some of the nuts and bolts here, you talked about the appropriation hearings. That's a grueling 3 weeks that you do, literally from A to Z, and all the department heads and secretaries to go through. But in a broad sense, how is the money spent? And I mean, what are the big ones? You know, we hear about corrections, we hear about education, we hear about the public of human services, I guess, a new name now for previously welfare.
You picked the top three, Representative. I mean, between Department of Human Services and education, that's 80% of our budget. I mean, you know, round it off, it's 80% of our budget. And right now, you know, we have put together a budget that increases education by $450 million, and it's a balanced budget. It's what I think is necessary. The Department of Human Services, you know, that's roughly about 40% of our budget, our $30 billion budget. You know, just under $12 billion a year. A lot of that, Representative, we don't control. A lot of it is federal mandates, and we receive the mandates from the federal government, and we have to honor it. And but we're taking care of our most needy people, the elderly, the physical and mentally disabled, and this is where the money is, and that's where it goes, and it goes into our hospitals and to nursing homes and home care, and we're trying to transition from those type of institutions into more home care. It's more affordable, and I think a lot of the folks like to stay at home. So that's where we've been heading, but it's very expensive, and you know, a lot of loyal, dedicated employees.
Yeah. Of the, I mean, we have 12.7 million people here in the Commonwealth, and you mentioned Department of Human Services, about 40% of the budget, $12 billion or so. Mm-hmm. What percentage of that 12.7 million people would you say would be recipients of, I mean, I know it, you know, it's hard to tell how many people go in and out of hospitals, et cetera.
Well, I think every one of those 12 million people, once in their lifetime, are going to be affected and going to be recipients of that money. Yeah. Okay, Representative, in Pennsylvania, I believe we have the second largest number of senior citizens in the United States of America, and it's certainly not our weather. Okay, I really believe it's a combination of a couple things, but it definitely has to do with the way we treat them, and you know, these are people that have been responsible taxpayers their entire lives, for the most part. I mean, then you have two healthy people, and God gives them a special child, and all different categories, and they need help. They need help, and the state has been partnering for a long time in taking care of these people. So I think it touches just about every family. It's not, I think years ago it was called the Department of Welfare, and I think people looked at that a little differently. I think with your help over the years, we've cleaned that up a lot, and the waste and abuse is not there like it used to be, and we've cut that out. And these are mainly human services, and we deal a lot with our counties. A lot of this money just goes to York County, for example, and the commissioners and the people in York County, you know, they decide whether it goes to drug and alcohol programs or you know, rape crisis centers, that type of stuff. So that's where the money's heading.
Right. Certainly, it's very encompassing, as you say, with 40% of the budget. It's hitting a lot of different areas. Obviously, the budget impasse has been sort of front and center with a lot of the attention here the last 8 months. Can you maybe just give us just a brief overview of the timeline and the efforts that we've done to try to correct this impasse and to move forward with the next budget year?
Some of this has been lost, but in the reporting of this, number one, Representative, the House and the Senate passed an on-time budget. An on-time budget. And what I mean by on time, we put a balanced budget on the governor's desk by June 30th, 2015. And that was a $30.2 billion budget.
$1.1 billion increase over the previous fiscal year, as I recall.
Absolutely correct. And no tax increases necessary. The amazing thing is that with a stroke of a pen, the governor completely vetoed an entire budget. First time that a governor has done that in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania since the mid-1950s. What happens? Money doesn't go out. Other than state employees, okay, as a result of a Supreme Court ruling, if you go to work, you get paid. But school districts did not get their money. Hospitals did not get their money. Rape crisis centers did not get their money. All those drug and alcohol programs that we were talking about, they did not get their money. So the governor insisted on his budget, which had something like a $3 billion increase, and there was just not an appetite to raise the taxes on the working people of Pennsylvania. When we decided that it was necessary for these agencies to start receiving the money, we did a 90-day emergency stopgap budget in September. Passed the House, passed the Senate, vetoed by the governor. They continue to work. We continue to work with the administration. Leadership put together what you hear out there called the framework budget. There were some issues that tied in with a $30.8 billion spend number. And that was liquor privatization, that was pension reform, and property tax reform. Well, as those issues were voted one at a time, they were defeated. So the governor continued to say we have this framework budget. However, we got no help in passing these other pieces of legislation. So the only thing that was left was this $30.8 billion budget that took about $2 billion worth of taxes on the working people. It was strictly a personal income tax increase and some expansion of sales tax, cigarette taxes, et cetera, et cetera. So in December, we put together what we felt was a compromise budget, went up to $30.3 billion, a $400 million budget increase in education. It took a couple $100 million in extra revenue, but we were going to do something with internet gaming. We were going to do something with the Philadelphia casino license down there, et cetera, et cetera. And we would have had a $30.3 billion budget in December. The governor blue lined $6 billion. So we're $500 million apart. We pass it. He decides to blue line $6 billion. Couldn't understand it. Half of the Department of Corrections budget. We got to keep our prisons open. Our school districts, any day now, could start closing or borrowing. Okay, not good. Health line items, 4-H clubs, agricultural line items, all blue lined. We put together another budget. Okay, our third 12-month budget. If you include the stopgap, it's our fourth budget. 30.023, something of that nature. Okay. We don't have the revenue. We can't go backwards. Okay. It's March 23rd. All right. So we're trying to get that budget passed. It's in front of the governors now. We passed the non-preferreds, funding for Penn State University, University of Pitt, Temple, Lincoln, or University of Penn Vet School, the only veterinarian school that we have in the Commonwealth. Believe it or not, they haven't received a single dime from the state this year, those universities. We finally passed them with bipartisan support. So all that and the fiscal codes all sitting on the governor's desk, and we're all have our fingers crossed waiting to see what he's going to do. Hopefully he signs it and we can get Pennsylvania back on track again and start working on 16-17's budget.
Good. Well, as you mentioned, it's March 23rd, so we got the most current, up-to-date information. Bill, I thank you so much for spending a few minutes with us today and bringing us up to speed.
Yes.
That's all the time we have for today's program. I'm Keith Gillespie with the 47th District in York County. If you have any questions about what we discussed or you need assistance with any state-related matter, please feel free to contact me at my local office or through my website. That information will be on the screen in just a moment. Thanks again for watching.